Hello, thank you for joining me on this short video, Jam and Similar Products. My name's Andy Bowles and I'm a food lawyer. Now this is number 17 in a series of 100 short videos that I'm recording on food law topics. You may be watching this video as part of our online training service, in which case you'll have access to a whole range of different resources, including an online webinar, which is about an hour long, goes into a bit more depth on the topic. But if you're watching me on my YouTube channel now, then you're absolutely welcome. Okay, so I'm talking about jam and similar products, and the regulations are food standards regulations. So primarily what they deal with is the labelling and composition of jam and similar products. In the regulations themselves, there's reference to designated products that fall within the scope of the regulations and reserved descriptions that must be used to describe such foods. So a reserved description will be something like jam, extra jam, marmalade. What it means is if you use those terms on a label, then you are clearly stating that that product meets the compositional standards as set out in the regulations. So they're reserved for those products that can meet those standards. You can't use the word jam if those standards are not being met. Now, of course, the regulations are there for products that are being placed on the market, so therefore ready for the final consumer or for mass caterers. So the regulations set out compositional requirements, particular minimum contents like minimum sugar content, fruit content, permitted additional ingredients, as you can only add substances that are listed out in the regulations to jam, and then permitted treatments for the ingredients. Also, there is a requirement for fruit content to be included. So sugar content is a big deal when it comes to the actual designated products. For jam, extra jam, and all those other reserved descriptions listed behind me there, including marmalade, the sugar content should be a minimum of 60%. However, there are some exceptions to that, and the most obvious exception is where the sugar's been either fully or partially replaced with a sweetener, and then it can be reduced sugar, and the amount of sugar present there can be, typically 25 to 50%. This is where it's been partly reduced. So there are some additional ingredients that can be added. Some of them are pretty inert, like honey and fruit juice and things of that nature, but there are a whole range of additional ingredients. Now, the regulations specify the circumstances under which those ingredients may be added. So they can't necessarily be added to all products, and there are some restrictions, particularly when it comes down to things like leaves of the apple geranium, for example, can only be used in very particular products. But some can be used across the board, like spirits, wine, liqueur, nuts, aromatic herbs, etc. can be used in pretty much all products. But there are, of course, food additives that are restricted for use in jams. So that would link into the food additives video if you want to go and have a look at that. Permitted treatments. Well, fruit pulp, puree, etc. can be heated, chilled, frozen, freeze-dried, concentrated, sulfited. So there are some restrictions on the way that sulfites are dealt with, and of course some restrictions in the actual sulfites or sulfur dioxide and various salts of sulfur dioxide that can be used. So we see a list of E numbers there. Again, it links back to approved additives. Apricots and plums can be subject to further drying. Citrus peel can be preserved in brine. In terms of labelling of jams, well, of course, the general food labelling rules will apply. There needs to be a name of the food, an ingredients list, a quid declaration, food allergens need to be declared, nutritional information, etc. So the whole range of normal food labelling obligations will apply. However, there are some additional rules here, and these relate to reserved descriptions, sugar content and fruit content. So for example, the name of the food should be the reserved description. So jam, extra jam, marmalade, for example. That, of course, can be qualified with a bit of more of a description on that, but that is the requirement. Sulfur dioxide, where it's more than 10 milligrams per kilogram, then it should be listed in the ingredients list, and of course that should be highlighted because of the fact that it falls within the scope of food allergen information. Total sugar content, well, that should be listed out. There are some exceptions. It says there fruit curds like lemon curd or something like that. minced meat, whatever. But total sugar content should be expressed in X grams per 100 gram. Or if it's a reduced sugar jam, then that should be included on the label. The type of fruit should be used. So for example, strawberry jam, the proportion of fruit used. So this is applied in jams, jellies and marmalades, so prepared with a particular gram per 100 gram of fruit. So there we are. The basic requirements for jam and similar products relates to composition and labelling. With labelling, it's just a general labelling requirements with some additional extra requirements I've just mentioned in terms of the sugar content and the fruit content in particular. Thank you for listening to this very short video on this. If you want more information, remember this is just one of 100 videos that I've recorded on food law topics, so please join me on one of the other 99. Thanks again for listening. Cheers.